Thank you, Dean Carbajal, for that wonderful introduction. So sometime over the last 21 years of teaching here, students started calling me Prof. K. So you can all call me Prof. K or Professor Karnovsky. I answer to both. So I'm supposed to give you the real story of my journey. How did I get here? Well, here's the short version. I grew up with a lot of pet birds. Parakeets, finches, I had a chicken, and now I study birds. Birds are my main research subject. So on the basis of that, you could say Prof. K has been singularly bird-obsessed since she was a child, and now she's a bird scientist. It seems so linear. So I'm now going to give you the real story. Okay, the pet bird thing, absolutely true. I have a cockatiel named Bubbles still. I went to Wesleyan University in Connecticut, a liberal arts school very similar to Pomona, and I arrived thinking that I might like to major in biology. I thought I wanted to be a midwife. I was really passionate about women's health and reproductive rights. And in my first biology class, first semester, first lab, the first experiment was doing an experiment on female lab rats, which involved implanting these rats with hormones. And I came to find out that the effect of doing this was already well documented. It was in our textbook. So what's up with that? That's not authentic science. That did not sit right with me. So, I may have, well, it's possible. Okay. I told the professor that he was training students to sterilize women against their will. Okay, that actually happened. And so I swung away from biology and I started taking other classes that were really interesting to me. Religious studies classes. Oh, there was one, biblical themes in science fiction, so good. English classes, literature of the Caribbean, amazing. Politics classes, I took a class on reform movements called Towards a Socialist America, delicious. And I played in the gamelan, which is an Indonesian orchestra of gongs, and we have that here at Pomona. And I danced in West African dance classes, and I loved everything so much, I changed my major several times. I also pursued my interest in the role of science in the world. And eventually I became a science in society major, which is really similar to the science, technology, and society program we have here at Pomona. And I ended up petitioning out of taking any science. Because I didn't want to engage in the evil subject-object distinction that is part of the scientific method that I argued was the root of all oppression. So, what happened? Because never in a million years would I or anyone else who knew me then have predicted that I would become a scientist. Okay. After graduation, I got an internship on an isolated island off the coast of California called Southeast Farallon Island. Are any of you from the Bay Area? Oh, okay. You may have seen this island. It's like a little rock way out there with a blinking lighthouse on it. You can only see it on a really rare, clear day. Anyway, there were only 3 other people on the island, and there were thousands of seabirds. It was paradise. What happened with the 3 other people will have to be part of a different talk in another venue. Okay, well, one of my jobs was to regularly measure the weight of these Cassin's auklet chicks, these seabirds that nest in burrows. So I'd get dressed in a raincoat, and I had a wooden stake duct taped to the top of my head, to the hood, and the coat protected me from all the poop flying around from the thousands of birds. I had to remember, close your mouth. And the stake protected me from the western gulls, which would attack the highest point. So they'd go for the stake, not my head. Well, as the weeks passed, I was getting really shocked because instead of getting bigger, these chicks were getting lighter and lighter. The parents were having trouble finding food. They were being left unfed for so long, many of them crawled out of their nests to try to find food, only to get eaten by hungry western gulls. And I got really excited. I realized that these birds were telling us a story. They were telling us about the ocean conditions. And it turns out that that year was an El Nino year. El Nino years are where warm, nutrient-depleted waters surround the island and disrupt the entire food web. And I wanted to learn more about how birds could be indicators. I became a bird bum for 6 years, and I traveled the world doing seasonal bird jobs. Like I went to Antarctica to help study how penguins were responding to changes in ice. I went to the remote Hawaiian Islands to study boobies and the Grand Canyon to study goshawks. And eventually, I realized that I didn't want to be a helper on other people's projects anymore. I had ideas of my own. So I decided to apply to graduate school. And when I applied, they actually contacted me and asked if I was applying to the right department because of how badly I did on the standardized quantitative test. But I was accepted because I could write. And I promised I would make up all the classes I had never had, such as Gen Chem, genetics, math, statistics, physiology, everything. But that was okay with me because I was motivated to learn. I was psyched to study science for conservation. So do I regret not doing science as an undergrad? Not at all. Every one of the classes that I took contributed to my understanding of the world, which is critical to being able to understand complex problems like climate change and is essential for doing ethical science that promotes environmental and social justice. So for example, if you want to understand the distribution of birds here in Los Angeles County, you need to understand the history of racism in this area, to understand the distribution of trees, which is influencing the distribution of birds, which also is related to human health. So all of these subjects are interconnected. So what I'm saying to all of you is, don't be locked into one idea of what you want to study and what you want to be in life. Be open to new fields of inquiry and experiences. Be curious. It's also totally okay to not know what you want to be. Be intellectually adventurous. I have no regrets because it was my adventures in liberal arts that got me here. For many years, I took Pomona students to the Arctic with me in the summers to carry out research on a bird called the dovekie, which is really similar to those Cassin's auklets. Now, several of these students are medical doctors or professors, others are working for nonprofits, one is a dentist, one is a farmer. Now, was the Arctic fieldwork a detour for the students the ones, let's say, who went on to medical school? No. In the Arctic, they learned how to work as a close-knit team, how to work with international collaborators, how to communicate results to the general public and to other scientists, how to work under exhausting and uncomfortable conditions, preparation for residency, how to make careful behavioral observations, how to quantify those behaviors and analyze those data. They learned practical skills and safety skills. So this experience actually was an essential part of their journey to where they are today. Okay, I can't resist. I got to give you an ecology lecture real quick. I'm from the East Coast, and it took me a really long time to get used to the cycle of life here in SoCal. So I'm going to fill in all the newcomers. We are beginning fall semester, called fall because on the East Coast, that's when the leaves turn beautiful colors and they fall from the trees. Okay, but here, native plants lose their leaves in summer. It's an adaptation to the extremely dry and hot weather we've just been experiencing. In order to not lose precious moisture in their leaves, they just drop them in summer. Okay, get this. They regrow them in winter. Winter is the growing season, not spring. Winter is when we get the most rain, so it's winter showers, not spring showers. The native plants that drop their leaves are part of the native habitat here called California sage scrub. And we have a patch of this habitat right next to campus at a place called the Bernard Field Station. It's a place that all of you have to experience before you graduate. Now, there's hardly any of this habitat left in Southern California. In fact, 90% of sage scrub has been lost. So how cool is it that we have some within walking distance of campus? We are in a place that is known as a biodiversity hotspot, which is defined by two things. One, lots and lots of endemic species found nowhere else in the world. And two, many of those species are threatened or endangered. My research is on those impacts that threaten and endanger native species: climate change, invasive species, habitat loss, pollution, and frankly, it's tough. It's really, really depressing. Just last week, 2 mountain lions were hit by cars in Orange County. But what keeps me going and continues to give me hope are Pomona students, which means all of you, your creativity, your passion, your commitment, and how Pomona students and all of you apply their ability to analyze data, speak, write, perform, and create art to bring about change on the planet. My students and I had an amazing summer. These students received summer undergraduate research program grants, the SERP grants, to investigate the impact of invasive bullfrogs on native species. They studied the breeding success of puffins in the rapidly warming waters off the coast of Maine. They mapped the distribution of 2 species of native wood rats at the Bernard Field Station, and they kayaked in the local harbors here in search of banded brown pelicans to help track their survival and migratory patterns. I know it's a whole lot of different topics, and that's what makes my job super exciting and fun and never boring. And often the studies that we develop are from observations we make in class, or they stem from a particular interest of a student, or a paper that we've discussed in class. So yes, we faculty are here to mentor and train and impart information, but you are all responsible for bringing your questions, your curiosity, your passion into the classroom. So what I'm saying is, we are going to be learning together. Okay, I cannot resist. I got to tell you one more thing. I want to talk about our mascot, Cecil. It always comes back to the birds for me. Okay, sage hens in the wild are sage grouse. They don't live anywhere near here, but they do live in 11 western states and are threatened by oil and gas development, agriculture, and diseases like West Nile virus. They aren't blue like our beloved Cecil, but they're really gorgeous. The males have a stunning mating display, which involves a dance and making popping noises by filling air sacs in their chest, like boop, 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 boop. Okay, Okay, I have an idea. Let's go on a field trip and go see the sage grouse. Spring break? I've actually never done that. And what I want to tell you is, no matter what your course of study you embark on here, maybe you can find ways to use your knowledge and skills and passion to help those wild Cecils. I'm so excited to meet you. Please come visit me if you want to see the sage scrub habitat or if you want to help plan this field trip I just thought of. I just want you to know that you're now part of a lifelong flock. We professors will be part of your life forever. I know it sounds creepy, but okay. I'm still in touch with students from 21 years ago. I've gone to many life celebrations, weddings, graduations, art exhibitions, book release parties. I still collaborate with students who graduated long ago. For example, those Cassins auklets on the southeast Farallon Island, well, several Pomona students did summer SERP studies on that island, on those birds. And along with colleagues in biology and math, we just published our paper based on 10 years of observations on how Cassins auklets respond to changes in ocean conditions around the island. So welcome, sage hens, and let the adventures begin. Thank you.